From the early days of Grand Theft Auto 3 to San Andreas and even GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, Rockstar has added hidden maps and cities to these games that you normally cannot explore outside of single player. The thing about it is Rockstar creates these very vast, dynamic environments, and they play a small role in the single player. They're filled with secrets, but if you try to explore these secrets or find them, you get a mission failed prompt because you can't stray too far off the beaten path. And if you try to explore these locations in multiplayer modes, Rockstar is very quick to stop you from going here. So why do they do that exactly? Well, that's the age-old question. That's Rockstar logic. Create something very vast and then stop everybody from getting there to explore. If you learned something new from this video, please drop a like for the algorithm. I'll wait. Yo. Thank y'all so much. Also, thank you for 700,000 subscribers. So there's no better way to start this video than with the ghost town in Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, I don't want to sound like a broken record because I've made so many videos in the past talking about ghost town that you can find linked down below in the description. But in short, outside of the Liberty City map in Grand Theft Auto 3, there is a small portion of a city block that includes the Bank of Liberty City, and it's where the introduction cutscene to Grand Theft Auto 3 takes place. Now, the reason there's no logic behind this is because this is a part of Liberty City with the Liberty City Bank, but it's not actually in Liberty City. And Rockstar actually acknowledged this a few years back on a Q&A on their website where they were asked about the ghost town, and to summarize everything that they said, basically ghost town was created for the introduction only, and it was never named, and it's just there. Like I said, that's the ultimate clickbait. Rockstar did it first, and the ultimate form of where's the logic? GTA San Andreas takes us to Liberty City. In the mission St. Mark's Bistro, CJ is tasked with flying to Liberty City, surprisingly, and, well, we go to St. Mark's Bistro to take care of the Forelli family. The mission itself is short-lived, and we don't really get to explore out of bounds in Liberty City, which isn't too big of a deal because at the time that San Andreas released, it was just nice to revisit a familiar location. But if you so choose, whether it be with mods or cheats, you can actually explore Liberty City in GTA San Andreas in its full-on winter wonderland form. And while it's only a small portion of the island of Portland, it is still very neat to check out some familiar locations and see what they look like in this form. Located out in the middle of nowhere is Ludendorff, North Yankton, and this was the first time that Rockstar took us to a different city in a Grand Theft Auto game since GTA San Andreas. So Ludendorff, North Yankton appears in 2 missions in Grand Theft Auto 5, the prologue and also the mission Bury the Hatchet. And because North Yankton is only accessible via the single player missions, because all the GTA Online glitches get patched, there are tons of secrets that you may not have known about, and I want to share some of those with y'all. So firstly, inside the bank, and you could only know this if you were to use mods because it is actually barred off in single player, there is a secret room, and it's a camera surveillance room almost. And if you go inside of here, you can obviously, there's a completely unused interior that was most likely cut from Grand Theft Auto 5 to shorten the length of the prologue. Now, if you just head right on up the road, you're going to see the Welcome to North Yankton sign. And behind this is, well, my last name. I'm in Grand Theft Auto, y'all. Now, because we all know about the alien Easter egg, we can skip over that and head to the world's largest beaver. Hidden on this are a few Easter eggs from the Rockstar Games developers themselves that probably weren't meant to be found because you really can't stray off the path when you are in North Yankton. So this is really neat. Classic Rockstar Games right here. Now, outside of the church, there's a billboard, and you can see that somebody has lost their cat, and there's a phone number on there. And while you may not have found their cat, you can call their number, and, well, they're not too pleased.
Stop prank calling me!
And lastly, I just want to kind of focus on downtown Ludendorff, North Yankton. This is similar to what towns look like around where I grew up. In the part of the United States that I do live in, anybody from the southern states are going to be familiar with this most likely. And it's just neat. Rockstar did a great job capturing this, even though it's never used in the game. And there's also an invisible wall at the end of the town. Now, switching things up and going back to the future, we are in Guarma in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, Guarma plays a small part, but a significant part of the storyline in Chapter 5, where it takes place in Guarma. And outside of that, we never return to Guarma. And it turns out, though, that this island was supposed to be way bigger than it initially was. It would have been almost the same size as the map of Red Dead Redemption 2. This was found by data miners within the game's files, and they've even put together a map based on everything in the files found, and this is how big it would have been, and initially what it would have looked like. And wow, that's amazing. And what's even more amazing is if you take a look, there seems to be a volcano on this map. And if we actually go to this area in Red Dead, well, you can see the mysterious remnants of what would have been the Guarma volcano. It's almost scary being out here in these low texture environments. I don't know what it is, but something about it just sends chills down my spine. Another thing found within the game files that is pretty interesting is being able to purchase a ticket to return to Guarma. So, as I mentioned before, Guarma was intended to play a bigger role in the story. It would have been a complete map. It would have been way bigger. And with the option to buy a ticket to return to Guarma, you could easily go back to study all the animals for your compendium. And quite possibly the most interesting thing about Guarma is an image of Arthur and his love interest Eliza on a rowboat found within the files relating to Guarma, meaning that there would have been other missions, side missions possibly. Abigail and John are also mentioned, so this is obviously cut content from the game, but it just makes you wonder. And the last detail about Guarma that's pretty interesting is outside of their spawned areas, animals roam freely throughout all of Guarma, even to the areas or right up until the areas have no more texture. And back in January 2019, one of these animals that was found was a shark, which before this, nobody knew that there were sharks in Red Dead Redemption 2. And there's a couple different variants of them, but this one could be found through a glitch at the time that allowed you to get outside the map and explore, and if you went to a certain location, a shark would wash up on the beach. I personally think that there's so much missed potential with Guarma that Rockstar could almost make a standalone DLC and release that, or a single player update for Red Dead Redemption 2, restoring Guarma to what it should be. And lastly, we have the newest addition, and that is Cayo Perico to Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, Cayo Perico is interesting in and of itself, and on this island, it seems to be composed of like so many different reused assets from Red Dead Redemption 2, and even Max Payne 3 that I've noticed so far. But on Cayo Perico are some very interesting things. Aside from the Red Dead Redemption 2 images and pictures and paintings that can be found in the office of El Rubio, there is the river monster, or the Loch Ness monster, as we know, that can be seen at the end of the heist, just very briefly in the cutscene, and we can actually spawn it in. And while I've talked about this on the channel before, what I didn't know is that this river monster, or this Loch Ness monster in Grand Theft Auto 5, is actually beta content that was cut from Red Dead Redemption 2. As in the Red Dead Redemption 2 game files, there is codes referencing the river monster, and there's even sounds. So in Red Dead, we have the sounds, and GTA 5, we have the monster. We can also find so many underwater Easter eggs scattered around the map that are very, very interesting to say the least, and it's unfortunate because we can't really stray off the path too far to explore all of this like we should be able to. And the last thing about Cayo Perico that's very interesting is that Cayo Perico was revealed to us as a Grand Theft Auto 6 leak in June of 2019. And at the time, this leak was debunked, but it then came true when Cayo Perico released. So it's very interesting how this GTA 6 Project America's leak detailing, taking place in South America or islands near South America in the 1970s and the 80s, and the island is heavily influenced by that and the drug running, as it can be seen everywhere around the map, from the influences of Pablo Escobar to the sunken drug running submarine to El Rubio. It's all right there, and it's so interesting. It's almost like Rockstar is teasing us for Grand Theft Auto 6. But either way, these are some removed cities from Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead that really have no explanation as to why they were removed, because it's Rockstar logic and sometimes they don't make sense. If y'all enjoyed, please drop a like, follow the algorithm, subscribe if you haven't already. What are you doing? And, well, I hope to see y'all in the next upload.